Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. This is a follow-up to my video on why I believe Rocky Marciano's record of 49-0 at heavyweight is more impressive, more meaningful than Floyd Mayweather's record of 49-0 at lower weights. Right now, let me just point out the number 49 is a bit arbitrary, of course, because guys like Willie Pep won 62 matches in a row at the beginning of his career. Right? You've had other fighters who have won more matches, or at least not lost a match for a longer period of time, with some draws mixed in there, right? At the world-class level. Carlos Monzon comes to mind. Right? I would encourage people, too, to look hard at Julio Cesar Chavez's record. Right? So, the number 49 really applies to heavyweights. It doesn't apply to the lighter weights. But let me say, my earlier video produced a lot of provocative comments. Right? A lot of people don't like the idea that the heavyweight division means more than every other division. Well, to those people, let me just ask a simple question. Let me throw this into the conversation. Why is it that Roy Jones, who was at the time the best fighter in boxing, right? Most people considered Roy Jones to be a pound-for-pound great. Why is it that Roy Jones would leave a weight he could make to gain weight to fight for the heavyweight title? Why is it that Marco Huck, who had a nice streak of title defenses at cruiserweight, right? In other words, he's dominant at cruiserweight. Why is it that Marco Huck would leave a weight that he could make? Keep in mind, both guys, after fighting at heavyweight, drop back down. Why would he leave his weight class where he's dominant to gain weight to fight at heavyweight? Right? I'm telling you, it's because these men understood that legacy-wise, the heavyweight division casts a long shadow. Right? I haven't seen heavyweight champions decide that they need to grab the cruiserweight or light heavyweight title and then deliberately lose weight to fight for those lower titles. Let me say, I believe what's happened here for this generation of boxing fan, a lot of young people, they don't remember when an American heavyweight here in the United States ruled the roost. They simply don't know how big a charismatic heavyweight champion can be. Understand, when Riddick Bowe had the belt, he met with the Pope. Right? People like the Pope wanted to be seen with Riddick Bowe. You know, here online, in talking about heavyweights, I'm hard on some heavyweights. Even elite unbeaten heavyweights like Deontay Wilder, who has a share of the heavyweight title. But look, even I make no bones about it. If Deontay Wilder were to beat a champion who we all agree is a legitimate heavyweight champion, if he were to beat Vladimir Klitschko, let's say Klitschko beats Fury, which I don't see happening, but let's say it happens. If Klitschko beats Fury, and if Deontay Wilder then turns around and beats Vladimir Klitschko, I'm telling you, the level of, we'll call it rock stardom, would be dazzling. It would be blinding. You would understand that the heavyweight champion is king. Right? And so, you'll get great fighters outside the heavyweight division. Ray Robinson, Floyd, Ray Leonard, right? But when you're talking about a guy who goes 49-0 at heavyweight, I believe most people understand that that, quite frankly, is a bigger mountain to climb. Now let me back away a little bit. I'm not saying that Rocky Marciano had more boxing skills than Floyd Mayweather. You can have two mountain climbers. One could be better skill-wise than the other. But if that one climbs a 49-0 record, right, at lighter weights, whereas the other one climbs a 49-0 record at heavyweight, I would say the guy climbing the heavyweight mountain is climbing the bigger mountain. Right? Let me say too, and I know many people are saying, hey, Joe Louis was washed up when he fought Rocky Marciano. Right? I'll agree, Louis is not prime Louis. But I want you to think about who beat Louis, right, in the years preceding his loss to Rocky Marciano. Right? Ezra Charles beat Joe Louis. Understand, Rocky Marciano beats both of them. Right? Jersey Joe Walcott beats Ezra Charles. Understand, Rocky Marciano beats both of them. Let me say too, as I see it, it's more impressive for a fighter to be an underdog and win a fight against a favorite than it is to be the overwhelming favorite and to beat a string of underdogs. Right? Now, that's not to say that the favorite beating the underdogs is a lesser fighter. But I'll say, to me, it gets more of a wow when I look at Rocky Marciano's record and I realize that for a few of his fights, he's actually the underdog in the match. And the guy still goes unbeaten at heavyweight, the division even great fighters like Roy Jones gained weight to be a part of. Think about it. Chris Bird. Keep in mind, these guys aren't alone. Chris Bird wasn't a natural heavyweight. Right now, Steve Cunningham, right, his own trainer, Nassim Richardson, doesn't consider him to be a natural heavyweight. I would disagree with Nassim, but just understand you have a lot of guys who are fighting at heavyweight because they understand that that division is the diamond ring division of the sport. Right? That's the platinum division in the sport. What I want people to realize too is, let's forget about international borders. Right? I know here in the United States we want to believe that there has never ever been a boxer with a higher star profile than Floyd Mayweather. Right? Trust me, I don't believe anyone over 40 believes that for a minute. Right? I don't care about the pay-per-view numbers. Understand, pay-per-view numbers have a lot to do with technology and with the number of people who have access to pay-per-view facilities. Right? You know, you can have the record pay-per-view, number. That doesn't necessarily mean that your fight was a bigger event than smelling Joe Louis, than the first Ali Frazier fight. Right? I'm just telling you. And you don't have to trust me. You can do the research. And by the research, I don't necessarily mean online. I mean going up and tapping Grandpa and saying, Dad, how big was Ali Frazier? Right? That's a bigger fight. That's a bigger fight. I don't care about the financial numbers. That was a bigger world event than Mayweather-Pacquiao. Let me also say something that's even more important. That fight was a bigger boxing event than Mayweather-Pacquiao. Right? Manny Pacquiao, and I know he's a love fighter. Trust me. He's an Ali figure. I know he's a love fighter. Right? If I were voting for the Hall of Fame and Manny Pacquiao were eligible the very first time, he gets my vote. Right? But understand, to get the Mayweather fight, Manny Pacquiao fights Chris Algieri at 143.5 pounds. Look it up. Right? In other words, one of the reasons why Algieri looked good against Amir Khan was he was actually able to eat his meals. He fights Manny Pacquiao at a catch weight. This is after Manny Pacquiao has lost to Juan Manuel Marquez. Right? This is after Manny Pacquiao officially lost to Timothy Bradley. Manny Pacquiao knocks him down several times. That's how we get Manny against Floyd Mayweather. There's only one unbeaten fighter in that fight. Now contrast that. I mean, really, there's no comparison to a fight involving two guys who are unbeaten at the time of the match. Two guys with Olympic gold medals. Right? Two guys with a claim, a legitimate claim to the heavyweight championship. Right? As Ali used to say, I was the champ. No one beat me in the ring. How could somebody else call themselves the champ? Right? Pacquiao Mayweather pales in comparison to Ali Frazier. Mayweather, you heard Freddie Roach say his legs are not quite the same. Right? Mayweather and Pacquiao were both in their 30s. Both in their 30s when they fought. Ali Frazier, they're both in their 20s. Google that fight. And they're fighting at heavyweight. Right? And so, my point to you is don't be blinded by pay-per-view numbers. Also, don't be blinded by the present. Right? People who want you to believe that there's never been a bigger star than Floyd Mayweather. I remember being a young kid around guys who totally believed, and this is in the 70s. This is long after the guy's reign. Guys who totally believed, older guys in my neighborhood who totally believed that nobody approached Joe Louis. Right? I'm telling you, Vladimir Klitschko's television numbers in Germany for his fights are Super Bowl level. Were they to be here in the United States? Super Bowl level. Right? He's getting huge numbers. Right? If some young heavyweight captures the imagination and has a bit of a sense of swag about him, right? Enough swag to do things like meet with the Pope, right? Go on a world tour and stuff like that. Understand that the rock stardom that individual is going to have is going to dwarf. It's going to dwarf the rock stardom Floyd Mayweather has right now. Not because that fighter is better than Floyd Mayweather. Right? As I've said in past videos, if you look at skills, Mayweather did some things Ali couldn't do. Mayweather's the better defensive fighter. Mayweather's certainly the better body puncher. Right? But understand there's a difference between Mayweather and an Ali. The heavyweight division just carries extra weight. When Ali fights George Foreman, and they show up in Zaire, and the guys are walking the streets, crowds come around them immediately. I'm talking about a different level of crowd than you're seeing today. You know what? In the UK, Mike Tyson went over to the UK. He was going to fight a guy named Julius Francis or some name like that. I don't even think Tyson was the heavyweight champ at the time. Mike Tyson decided to walk the streets. Crowds made it impossible for Mike Tyson to do so. Right? You understand the heavyweight champion is, X times everyone else. I don't know how else to put it. Right? So if you're looking at 49-0 and you're going to tell me that a guy is 49-0, and I understand Floyd has many more title defenses than Rocky Marciano, who had 6. Right? I understand Floyd went through several weight classes on his 49-0. I understand all of that. Right? But 49-0 at heavyweight, where the guy is fighting world-class competition. Right? Even competition we want to believe is a little bit past its expiration date, and I don't know how people can say that about Archie Moore. Right? Who is one of the guys who Marciano KOs. Right? But my point to you is 49-0 in the heavyweight division is simply worth more than 49-0 everywhere else. Everywhere else. I'll agree. It's unfair. I'll agree. Many people are going to say, look, you can't ask a smaller man like Sugar Ray Leonard. Right? Another guy, by the way, who was loved much more, and I mean much more, than Floyd Mayweather. I mean, it's not close. If you were alive in the 80s, you remember Ray Leonard is so popular that there's a moment there where Ray Leonard holds a press conference and a crowd gathers. And all Ray does at the press conference is announce that he's going to stay retired because of a detached retina. That's how popular the guy was. Hagler shows up hoping to get the fight. This is before Leonard then decides to accept the fight. Right? Ray was the kind of guy who could read the news and draw a crowd. Right? Don't be fooled by pay-per-view numbers today. Understand there were bigger figures with the boxing public in the past. And also understand that 49-0 at the lighter weights doesn't equal 49-0 at heavyweight when you think of Roy Jones today. If you had to say a paragraph about Roy Jones, in which sentence does the fact that Jones won the heavyweight title appear? Isn't it one of the very first sentences of any article you write? Marco Huck had a great streak at cruiser. I'll tell you, if Marco Huck finds a way to win the heavyweight championship, right, that's going to be one of the first things in any Marco Huck, biography. David Hay was unified at cruiser. Right? I'm telling you, many people don't even know that. Because David Hay won a share of the heavyweight title, and that heavyweight title is that blinding. So I'm going to double down here. Yeah, that's right. I do believe Rocky Marciano's 49-0 at heavyweight exceeds 49-0 in the lighter weight classes. Understand too, Chocolatito right now is unbeaten. He's one of the best fighters in boxing today. He certainly belongs on a very short pound-for-pound list. He's in the 40s right now. Unbeaten. Right? Many fight fans hardly have heard of him because he's not a heavyweight. Right? If you had a heavyweight guy who was a champion on this kind of run, we would all know about it. Don't you know right now that Deontay Wilder's unbeaten? Right? I'm telling you, if Deontay Wilder knocks off, Vladimir Klitschko, and let's face it, I know many of you have said, hey, a win's a win. A decision's the same as a KO. Come on now, fight fans. We know that's not true. Right? Because we know that Buster Douglas knocked out Mike Tyson. Right? So you don't have to worry about the politics of scoring. There's no, hesitation where we say, well, did Timothy Bradley really beat Manny Pacquiao? When it's a KO, even when you think it's a KO by a guy who got lucky that night. You know what you call the guy who got the KO? You call him champ. Right? There's no talk about a robbery when a guy gets knocked out. Right? You can criticize Marciano. Marciano knocked out Joe Louis. Who are the people out there saying Joe Louis won that fight? Who are the people out there saying Archie Moore won his fight against Marciano? Right? So when Marciano's doing it by knockouts, 43 KOs in 49 fights, and when he's doing it at heavyweight, I'm not saying he has more skills than Floyd Mayweather, but I am saying he climbed a bigger mountain than Floyd. Right? That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. Let me hear some more from you. Leave your comments in the comment section to this video, and I hope you look at the other video on Marciano's 49-0 and read many of the comments left there. All right, thanks for stopping by.